The Taliban has just startled the world with what they are building. And the scale of it is not simply about bricks, steel, or soil. It is about power. Power over water, power over energy, and power over resources worth trillions of dollars that lie hidden beneath Afghanistan's mountains and deserts. What is happening now in Afghanistan is not only construction, it is the laying down of a new foundation for control, both within its borders and across its neighborhood. And here is the part that is often overlooked. China is already watching closely, preparing to tie its own ambitions to these projects. Among them lies one development so vast, so extraordinary, that it now ranks as the largest of its kind anywhere in Asia. Yet this is only one piece of a wider story, one that stretches from the deserts of the north to the corridors linking China and Pakistan and deep into Afghanistan's mineral-rich earth. Let us begin about 400 kilometers north of Kabul, where an enormous scar is being carved into the land. It is called the Qosh Tepa Canal project, and it is already being described as the largest man-made canal in a desert anywhere in the world. This canal is no ordinary trench. It is designed to stretch 115 kilometers and channel life-giving water from the Amu Darya River. To give perspective, it will be wider than California's celebrated aqueduct. What makes this significant is not only its size, but the consequences of its flow. Nearly 20% of the Amu Darya's water will be diverted into Afghanistan's barren plains, transforming them into farmland. By the time the canal is finished, it could irrigate 550,000 hectares of land, an expanse larger than the entire state of Delaware. That single achievement would increase Afghanistan's farmable land by nearly 1/3, potentially pushing the nation toward food self-sufficiency for the first time in its modern history. The project is not symbolic. It is physical, real, and relentless. 6,000 workers are laboring day and night, operating massive excavators in one of the harshest terrains on Earth. The cost is staggering for a country with so little revenue, an estimated $684 million. Yet the Taliban has already committed an additional $100 million of its own funds, proof that they are serious about reshaping their economy and their future. But with such ambition comes controversy. Downstream nations, Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan, are watching nervously. Both depend heavily on the Amu Darya's waters for their cotton fields and agriculture. With Afghanistan now taking a share that rivals theirs, tensions are rising. The Taliban's message, however, is firm. We will take what belongs to us, whether you agree or not. Water in their hands is not merely a resource, it is a weapon, a tool for influence that may alter the balance of Central Asia. The canal is only part of a broader hydrological strategy. Across Afghanistan, the Taliban is pushing ahead with dam projects that serve more than one purpose. These dams will generate electricity, irrigate farmland, and, perhaps most importantly, provide bargaining chips against neighbors that depend on the same rivers. The Bakhshabad Dam, for instance, has been revived despite bitter disputes with Iran over water rights. By asserting their right to build, the Taliban is declaring sovereignty not just over territory, but over the flow of rivers that sustain millions beyond its borders. In effect, Afghanistan is positioning itself as the upstream master of Central Asia's most contested resource.
What surprises many observers is not simply that the Taliban is building these things, but how they are doing it. For decades, Afghanistan's infrastructure was plagued by corruption, inefficiency, and half-finished projects. International aid was siphoned off, billions lost to middlemen and ghost contractors. Under the current regime, however, corruption has been markedly reduced, at least within these projects. The Taliban, for all their notoriety, appear committed to actually completing what they begin. In a country so scarred by abandoned promises, this newfound efficiency is both shocking and consequential. But the Taliban's ambitions are not confined to canals and dams. They're envisioning entire cities. On the plains near Kabul, construction has resumed on an audacious development called Kabul New City. This is not just an extension of the capital, it is a complete reimagining of Afghanistan's urban future. Covering 722 square kilometers, 1.5 times the size of today's Kabul, the new city is planned to hold up to 3 million people. It will feature 250,000 residential units, modern shopping centers, universities, clinics, and green spaces. Schools, hospitals, and infrastructure are all part of the blueprint. The project is divided into phases and sections, with developments like the Golden City already underway. Parcel by parcel, construction crews are building thousands of homes, including a $700 million expansion launched in 2024. If realized, Kabul New City would be one of Asia's largest planned cities, easing the capital's overcrowding and presenting an image of Afghanistan not as a war zone but as a society on the rise. Behind all these projects lies geography. Afghanistan sits in the heart of Asia, straddling ancient trade routes and modern corridors. The Taliban understand this better than most. They are not only exploiting rivers and land, but also using Afghanistan's location as leverage. In 2025, China, Pakistan, and Afghanistan signed a trilateral agreement extending the $60 billion China-Pakistan economic corridor directly into Afghanistan. This expansion gives China a new gateway to Central Asia while providing Afghanistan access to global markets through Pakistani ports. For Beijing, it means easier access to Afghan minerals. For Kabul, it means investment in roads. The infrastructure web does not stop there. The Trans-Afghan Railway project, a $4.8 billion endeavor, is set to connect Uzbekistan to Pakistan through Afghanistan. A 573-kilometer line requiring 300 bridges and 5 massive tunnels will slash transport times from more than a month to just 4 days. For landlocked Afghanistan, that is transformative. Meanwhile, the Herat Railway connecting Afghanistan to Iran became operational in 2023, already delivering shipments of heavy cargo. With every line and link, Afghanistan is tying itself more tightly into regional trade networks, forcing the world to acknowledge its strategic importance, even if its government remains diplomatically unrecognized.
Energy projects tell a similar story. The long-delayed Tapi pipeline, named for Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India, has been revived after decades in limbo. Designed to carry 33 billion cubic meters of natural gas annually, the $10 billion pipeline stretches 1,821 kilometers and promises Afghanistan nearly $1 billion a year in transit fees. Construction has resumed on Afghan soil, with the Taliban providing guarantees of security. Ironically, it was the Taliban itself that negotiated the pipeline's original framework back in 1998, before the events of 9/11 derailed it. Now, more than 2 decades later, the same movement is attempting to bring that vision to life. Then there is CASA 1000, a $1.2 billion project to carry hydroelectric power from Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan through Afghanistan to Pakistan. This initiative will transmit 1,300 megawatts of clean electricity, with 300 reserved for Afghanistan itself, enough to power 1 million homes. In 2024, the World Bank astonishingly approved its continuation, despite not officially recognizing the Taliban government. To avoid political entanglements, the financial structure was designed so funds bypass Taliban control, but the physical project proceeds. Once again, Afghanistan benefits from geography and becomes indispensable to the region's energy flows. Yet, perhaps the most profound element of this unfolding story lies beneath Afghanistan's soil. For years, geologists have whispered about the country's mineral wealth. Now the figures are openly discussed: trillions of dollars worth of lithium, copper, rare earth elements, and other resources critical to the global economy. With the rise of electric vehicles, smartphones, and renewable energy, these minerals are no longer obscure, they are vital. The Anak copper mine, long stalled under Chinese rights, has finally seen renewed activity. And this time, with the Taliban providing stability and security, there is reason to believe extraction may actually proceed. The regime has also imposed strict taxation on mining, generating more than $1.5 billion in revenue in 2022, according to World Bank reports. Much of this money is being reinvested into the very projects now transforming the country, creating a cycle where minerals finance infrastructure, which in turn facilitates more mining. One striking example of how this revenue is used is the Silong Tunnel, a Soviet-era passage that once ranked among the world's most dangerous roads. At 11,000 feet above sea level, this 2.7-kilometer tunnel was a lifeline connecting northern and southern Afghanistan, but it was also a death trap. Built for 2,000 vehicles a day, it carried more than 4 times that amount, its ventilation failing, avalanches threatening, and accidents claiming thousands of lives. In 1982, one disaster alone killed more than 2,700 people. For decades, the tunnel was infamous, neglected, and lethal. Then, in December 2023, the Taliban announced that it had completely reconstructed it. The cost? $100 million, nearly a quarter of the nation's tax revenue for the year. For a poor country, this was extraordinary. But the symbolism was clear. The Taliban was willing to invest heavily in public works, even at great sacrifice. The Silong Tunnel today stands not just as an artery through the mountains, but as evidence that the Taliban is reshaping Afghanistan with its own resources rather than waiting for foreign donors. So what does all this mean? On one level, it means that Afghanistan is changing in ways few could imagine after the chaotic withdrawal of foreign troops. Mega projects are underway, revenues are being directed into construction, and the country is more interconnected with its neighbors than at any time in recent history. On another level, it suggests that the Taliban is using infrastructure not only to serve domestic needs, but to assert power. Control of water gives them leverage over Central Asia. Railways and pipelines give them influence over trade and energy. Mining revenues provide financial independence, and urban projects offer the image of modernity to a weary population. The world may not recognize their rule, but it cannot ignore the consequences of their projects. Whether these ambitions succeed or collapse under the weight of Afghanistan's many challenges remains to be seen. But one thing is clear: the Taliban is building, not merely for today, but for a vision of tomorrow where Afghanistan is no longer isolated or dependent. If they succeed, the balance of power in Central Asia will shift. If they fail, the ruins of canals and cities will stand as monuments to ambition undone. Either way, the outcome will reshape not just Afghanistan, but the entire region for decades to come.